Let's talk about diet, guys, and let's get down to the nitty gritty, the truth about diets, and that is, and again, one man, my experience. It's not just anecdotal, personally, but having worked with probably well over 1,000 people at this point, I can tell you there are no clear cut diets out there. There are no clear cut supplements to avoid necessarily or to take necessarily. It is different for everyone, and we have to experiment. That is my message. So hear me in that, because it's one of the most common questions I receive is, I was thinking about taking magnesium, or my doctor said I should take magnesium, but in the groups they said, don't take magnesium, don't take vitamin B6, don't take vitamin C, vitamin D, don't take these supplements, And I'll tell you guys, I don't like that. I don't like that advice. And for the simple reason that we're all different. So for every person, and I've had people that said, I took magnesium, wow, they ramped up my symptoms and I can't take it. But for every one of those people, there's probably 2, 3 to 4 other people that said, oh, magnesium really helped me. Right? And so that needs to be understood, because if you're in these groups, even like I think the Benzo Information Coalition and some of these other bigger organizations, they have these clear-cut warnings. Do not take this. But in my experience, even when someone took magnesium and it didn't help them, it didn't put them in some catastrophic setback. I've never seen that. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. So before you dislike the video and unsubscribe, I'm not saying it doesn't exist. But on the other hand, I've seen people that took oregano and had setbacks. I've literally had clients that took mayonnaise and had a setback. I have clients that have looked at colors, but until a lot of this, there's more of an explanation than, why is hot water, for example, make people have panic? And I have clients say, well, I think it's something to do with, removing the toxicity of the cell. And everybody has these explanations, this very long-winded, intellectual, scientific explanation for why they think what they think. But usually what really is behind it all is limbic system conditioning. It's the limbic system drawing a faulty association between two stimuluses and then doing what the limbic system does, pumping you full of cortisol, adrenaline, suppressing GABA, suppressing serotonin, suppressing oxytocin, suppressing dopamine, suppressing endorphins, and making a cascade of fight or flight responses through the body and elevating stress, which then becomes self-fueling, right? So the more these symptoms rise, the more stress hormones that are released, the more symptoms rise, the more stress symptoms are released, the brain starts to change, our perceptions start to change. We're no longer looking at things clearly. Now we actually have a belief system in place about what is happening to us, and this becomes the Mac Daddy of negative imprinting on that limbic system. Once you have a belief, once you go from I'm worried about this, or I think this could happen too, I believe this is what happened, I know this is what happened, or I know this is what's going on. My friends, that's a dangerous place to be in the limbic system, because now there's no higher order. If you look at the limbic system, it's like this army. You're the general. So you're telling the army, we are being attacked. There is no mistake about this. We're being attacked. Well, what's the army going to do? It's going to release those hormones. Those hormones are going to jack up your symptoms. Those jacked up symptoms are going to manifest more problems for you. The more problems are going to jack up more symptoms. It can lead to more chemistry. Boom, round and round and round we go. And this is so much more responsible when I hear people saying magnesium or folate or this or that. This is what's going on 90% of the time. And also remember this. So maybe you're someone that said, no, Dave, that makes a lot of sense. I hear you. But no, I think it is magnesium because I did try it and, I ran this experiment. I just really believe it's magnesium. Fair enough. Back to the first thing I said, there's no cookie cutter formula for anyone. So sometimes some of us won't be able to take magnesium or eat certain foods or drink certain things or do certain things. But I will say this, guys, that's all subject to change. And it can change in a few months. Suddenly you can have magnesium again. Suddenly you can eat these things and do these things. Things are constantly changing. Just look at your symptoms. Every 2 to 3 months, sometimes every month, sometimes every week, these darn symptoms are changing. Chemistry is changing. This is a profound process that we're going through. So my advice again on, supplements and diet and things of that nature. Experiment, right? Experiment. Don't do anything crazy. Don't drink energy drinks. Don't have high carbs and high sugars and high calories. Don't eat fast food. Maybe avoid red meat and certain things high in sodium. You know, there are some good advice out there that I think is just the gold standard of this stuff for sure. But outside of that, if you're worried about increasing your magnesium or your vitamin C, then do this. Get it in your food. By the way, that's the best way to get it, because vitamins in supplement form doesn't translate to the body the way that getting it from food does anyway. In fact, you only get a very small portion. It's not the same of, you know, taking a supplement. Let's say having a vitamin C supplement versus drinking a cup of orange juice or eating a tangerine. Very different. You know, if you want to increase your vitamin B6, for example, eat some salmon, lean chicken, fortified tofu, pork, sunflower seeds. You know how many sunflower seeds I ate? I still love sunflower seeds, high in magnesium, but it's a very small portion, right? So if you get a supplement of magnesium, who knows how high it's going to be in milligram terms. But if you have a piece of salmon, it's, you know, maybe 1.6 milligrams of magnesium. That's not too bad. That's not going to put you in protracted or make you have a setback. But you can start to eat it more often, and you can slowly build up a more of a tolerance, and you can adapt to it. So sometimes it's not just about letting the body adapt, but letting the limbic system adapt to these new things too, which, by the way, is another one of Dave's golden rules to benzo recovery, which is whatever you do, whatever you reintroduce, whether it's a supplement, a dietary change, an exercise, a therapy, whatever, exposure, you start very, very small. The whole process is a game of gradual, subtle, slow, systematic desensitization. That means daily daily exposure therapy on a very small level that slowly builds in a time frame that allows the nervous system to adapt so that we don't become overwhelmed. That's how you do it, guys. That's how you get up and you get out of bed and you're walking again. That's how you introduce B6 back to your diet. That's how you taper off benzos, right? It's a slow, gradual reduction. So that everything has to be done in this very slow, methodical process. So those are my thoughts on supplements. You know, I'll tell you, I've never really heard of any supplement that stood out that I go, wow, I got to tell my clients and my friends and all my friends in benzo land about this amazing new supplement. I don't know it. I haven't seen it, haven't heard about it. The basics are the basics for a reason. B6 is usually pretty good. Magnesium is good. You know, a healthy diet is really good. Omega-3s, vitamin D, especially in the sunlight form, is good. You know, potassium is good. Fiber is good. Low carbs, low sugars. I mean, cut out sugars. You know, and above all, try not to be obsessive about this stuff, right? Because the goal is to get better and have your full life back, have your full diet back, right? Nobody wants to be boiling chicken and doing all these crazy dietary math or gymnastics to eat for the rest of their life. So remember, it's not all about that stuff. You have a limbic system that's hyper aroused, that's been battered and beaten and abused, and it is not welcoming anything new. So there's that. So before you convince yourself that these other things might be an issue, maybe it's not. Maybe it is this. Maybe, you know, maybe start by eating just a little piece of banana every morning to get that extra potassium and stuff. You know, add just a little bit of avocado. Now I go, oh, histamines, and they tell you to stay away from all this foods. Again, it is not a cookie cutter formula. And also, even with histamines, there's something to be said about slowly desensitizing and adapting to these foods again. And I've seen it. I've had many clients that couldn't eat avocado or, you know, insert a food, and they had developed a phobia. And maybe there were real histamine stuff going on there. But slowly the body adapts. The body adjusts. But it doesn't do that if we avoid it altogether permanently and then develop a phobia around it. Well, now we can't see the forest from the trees. Now maybe, you know, 6 months later, you could very well do very, very good on salmon and let's say sunflower seeds or avocado or walnuts. But now your limbic system won't allow you. And that's tough. And you develop a food phobia. And before you know it, you're eating 3 to 5 things a day in small portions. You're losing weight, and you're just in a tailspin. You're panicking. And the more you panic, the more the hormones are released by that limbic system. The worse you feel, the more you double down. Right? So again, my advice is, one, don't listen too closely to all the advice you hear on the internet, for one. Two, experiment. If you want to see if a little magnesium can help you, start with some low magnesium foods and just start to increase the volume of those things. Start with and then branch off to a very low dose of a magnesium supplement. See if that helps you, especially at night before you go to bed. Start small and ask yourself, is there a phobia there? Am I afraid? Because if there is a fear, well, that's almost more important than the slight side effect that maybe of a slight increase of histamine. Now, I will say low histamine diets are great. I encourage that. Low anti-inflammatory diets or low inflammatory diets are great. I encourage it. I think a Mediterranean/pescatarian diet is optimal. I don't think a vegan or vegetarian diet is necessarily optimal unless you're already on it. Then fine. This is a process that I believe later we're going to learn that there are a lot of metabolic problems that arise during this. Like with anything, even a systemic infection, you can later find out that it affected certain copper or minerals or vitamins in the body, right? And so in my mind, we want to keep all of that. We want to introduce, if we don't have it, we want to introduce all of these positive dietary things. Make sure we're getting the B6 and the vitamin D and the vitamin C and the E and the A, all the alphabet in terms of vitamins. Make sure you're getting copper and all of those other things, and just try. It's a trial and error. Run the experiment. If you find something that's maybe aggravating you, and you've done it a few times, then maybe cut back on it. But always come back to it, right? Come back to it later, and keep pushing it back against that anxiety and that food phobia. Because I tell you guys, I've heard about magnesium and certain things being problematic, and I've also heard about those things being like a wonder supplement for people as well. So you have to have that other side of the story, right? But above all of the stuff I've heard about diet, the one thing that I will tell you that is the biggest, to me, the biggest red flag, the biggest risk, and that is developing food phobia. That we don't want to do, because then at that point, it doesn't matter. Now you're just scared to eat.